FirstNet.com. With me today is Martha Ellis. She is the Executive Director of the Public Safety Broadband Technology Association. So what is the PSBTA? How did it come about? What can it do for you? These are the things we're going to talk to Martha about this morning. So Martha, the first question is, when was it formed? How long has it been around?
Well, toward the end of 2018, our board of directors, which is comprised of Al Gillespie, Ray Flynn, and Dick Murgon, started looking at the environment as it was starting to evolve and the dynamics between the First Responders Network Authority and FirstNet built with AT&T. And it became clear to them that there was a niche for end user advocacy. So we started off by doing a couple of forums, kind of testing the water, seeing if going into specific jurisdictions and bringing this information to all tiers of the organizations within these particular jurisdictions was going to be fruitful. At that point, of course, there were national campaigns and all of the AT&T FirstNet teams were being built and were getting out there and starting to beat the reeds once the contract was in place. But there seemed to be a niche for sharing information as it's hot off the presses, in addition to drawing information out of those end users or those potential end users. So at the end of 2018, they'd already established a framework. I was the deputy executive director in August of 2018, and then as we moved into the fall, I was bumped up to executive director, and we started planning what was going to happen in 2019. And it was all centered around how do we get the end user engaged and educated, because we were seeing that there was a lot of misinformation being sent out that was really confusing, unfortunately, to the public servant, and kind of muddied the waters and made it more challenging for them to make their broadband decisions. And so that we were most concerned about the end user and just making sure that we were a vehicle for the most current and accurate information, the most current and accurate status reports on network development, what was going on in the ecosystem. This was all really, really important to us. And really important also was, what is the end user thinking, right? Like, what are the obstacles to adoption? What's going on in your jurisdiction? You know, all of those things were key to facilitating and fostering more adoption so that FirstNet could become the robust public safety network that it needs to be and that it should be.
And you've touched on this a little bit about talking about the end users, and you know, that obviously makes it different from the other associations that are out there today. You know, there's associations for law enforcement, fire, and EMS, and mostly administrators. And, you know, you're talking about end users, which certainly is the organizations they work for, but it's also the big ground, right? Are those the type of people that you want to let know what's going on?
Well, exactly. However, what I will say is, you know, there are a lot of really high caliber, high functioning associations out there, and I don't want to take anything away from them because they all serve a very significant purpose in really representation on a lot of different levels within organizations, whether it's administrative level or it's boots on the ground level. But what also makes us super unique, we are interested in all tiers, believe me. As we're building out our Vision 2020 Summit, we've identified 3 tracks: an admin track, so that we'll be able to really speak maybe a little bit more of the political language, a little bit more of the budgetary language to those folks as far as in the context of FirstNet. And then we also have an IT track, so we can get down into the weeds with some of that technical terminology that, frankly, most of us first responders that have come up through the ranks, unless we have some other personal interest or military background, don't really have that deep-seated technical expertise. That's another track. And then the last track is the end user, because ultimately that is the group that we're trying to satisfy. So that being said, the difference, what really makes us unique, is we are completely broadband centric. So, and really FirstNet centric, to be quite frank. So we believe so thoroughly in what is being done with FirstNet our board of directors were in the trenches. They understand all of the heavy lifting that took place for years trying to get the legislation in place, and to begin with. And let me just speak to that for just a minute. Having the experience and seeing the effectiveness of bringing a bipartisan effort together in Congress, this doesn't happen every day. Clearly, we're experiencing bipartisan efforts right now with the pandemic, but when you're just trying to push some grassroots legislation through, it's usually labeled with one side or the other, whoever drafted the language, yada, yada. So to see that and be a part of that and have worked on this for years and years and years, there's a deep-seated passion within our board, especially, and I truly do believe that I'm very passionate about this as well, to make sure that it succeeds. And it makes sure that it succeeds in the spirit in which it was developed. It's so important that the vision doesn't get derailed by folks that don't understand what's at stake. And so that's what makes us different. We've got this incredible board that is so well educated and so connected and able to really foster this idea of complete flow of information up and down all chains. Where we've got a great relationship with the authority. We have a great relationship with FirstNet, built with AT&T. And we like to think of us as kind of this extra little bubble in that Venn diagram that kind of knits a lot of pieces together in that federal corporate effort to bring this forward.
Okay, with all the things you've talked about, then I'm assuming that, and in light of what's going on today with COVID-19 and stuff, is the medical profession eligible to be part of the association?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's just talk about the framework of FirstNet first. So within the framework of FirstNet, you've got primary and extended primary users. So your primary users are clearly going to be police, fire, EMS, 911 dispatch centers, those sorts of, like, when the gongs go off, they're going type of first responders, and or they're 100% engaged in that initial immediate response. But the extended primary users within the FirstNet framework are folks that may be drawn in to a response mitigation. So for instance, you mentioned that healthcare. Well, clearly healthcare is a huge part of this. And when we move into pandemic levels of response, the connectivity between those first responders and our hospitals is imperative. But also think about other types of emergencies, right? We've got tornadoes ripping through the South. We've had earthquakes in 3 fairly good sized, mid-sized cities in the United States. The world doesn't, they say the world's stopping right now, but Mother Nature is not stopping, and there's ample opportunities for compounding events to take place. They all require a cohesive response, right? So everything from rubbish removal, tree clearing, transportation, public utilities, all of those, although they may not be intrinsically necessary to every call, there are clearly times when they need to be brought up. And so all of those entities qualify as extended primary, and there is a mechanism in place where they can be uplifted, is the term, and get the higher status on the network during an event. And that is fully controlled at the local level by the jurisdiction. So taking that framework and kind of layering it into what we do, clearly all of those people are eligible. And so within the context of FirstNet users, our membership is open to all of them. But let's look at the vendor side. What is one of our missions? Our mission is connecting the end user to all sorts of resources, right? The cutting edge innovation that's taking place right now for the ecosystem. Right now, while we're still filling out the first 5 years of the contract, it's very dynamic as far as the status of the network. And so so our job is to continually knit those people together. Well, we can't exclude them from our association if we want to bring them into the conversation and have them in the room where it happens, right? So all people are welcome to join our association, but the distinction I will make is a corporation cannot join the association. So you're more than welcome to join as a vendor as an individual vendor. You're welcome to put the name of your organization that you represent in your membership profile. That's fine. But again, in an effort to bring everybody together, we are very inclusive. The only line we don't cross is having a corporation actually come in and have a membership solely for that corporation.
Right,
So
and I think
that's
that
the
is
framework.
and I think that is what makes you unique, is that desire, and also now the ability to bring those smaller vendors, those individual vendors, to the table and meet with the end users and create that connection that I believe that FirstNet was really designed to do. You know, it's great, like you say, that you reach out and touch all these end users all across the spectrum, but there are so many things out there, and I think FirstNet's starting to prove that, because with the FirstNet apps, you're starting to see a multitude of things that are being accepted by them, and some are big, some are small. So the fact that you actually are working on that close connection, or that closer connection, I should say, with the vendors, it definitely is unique to associations, having been involved in a lot of them.
Yeah, so let me also add this. Having been a first responder, I was a hotshot firefighter, and I've also come up through the ranks in structural firefighting in Salt Lake. One of the things, and as I rose up to the chief levels, I was involved in a lot of administrative decision making, procurement, and that sort of thing. One of the things that first responders tend to sense is that a lot of decisions get made without them. Changes happen to them, not with them. And the entire project of FirstNet is a reflection of a complete paradigm shift in that attitude, because this project will not succeed if it doesn't solicit that complete engagement by the end users. If we hand them something that's not intuitive, that's not going to be helpful, your phones are going to become paperweights. So we have to make sure that we consider every aspect of end user use, from what kind of clothing are they wearing when they're actually using these devices, to the intuitive nature of the applications, to the connectivity, which of course is the ultimate, because nothing works if you're not connected. Another point that I'll make is, you know, many of us in public safety have been to a litany of conferences. And again, I'm not trying to take anything away from our conferences, because they're clearly a great place to recharge your batteries and walk the vendor floor and try to snag a little bit of information on what's being developed at the time. But the thing about those types of events is they're very diluted, and it's sometimes it's hard to find what you're looking for. It's hard to have the experiences to vet, or touch and feel and really experience what the application or hardware developer is trying to do for you. So, and you don't get to spend a lot of time. You're usually, with no offense, but like kind of that end user or end developer sales folks. Does the information that you say to them on the vendor floor make it up the chain? We don't know. What the association is providing is this streamlined conduit, really, to all of these types of things, right? We're intimately connected with the authority, so we have conversations with people in the labs that are actually vetting these applications and the hardware. We work very closely with FirstNet, AT&T, and all of their solutions team members to make sure that the language that's being spoken is consistent and knits well with the language that first responders are used to speaking. And a classic example of that would be the incident management system. So the association is kind of the glue that's trying to hold all of this together and make sure that the vision and the mission of FirstNet is coming to fruition. And the only way to do that is to be an advocate for the end user. So I'm hoping our conference is going to be really different from what folks have experienced. We have some really cool things planned as far as kind of lighting up the vendor floor in a different way to make it a little bit more experiential. And then also having the last day is going to be a real hands-on day. Let me just speak very quickly about the summit that we're developing. So it's called the 2020 Vision FirstNet User Summit, excuse me. And it is in Westminster, Colorado, the 28th September through the 1st of October. We're optimistic. We're very optimistic that this is going to come to fruition, but of course we're watching it very closely. And the nature of this conference, again, it's just a very distilled down, laser focused access to everything that has to do with FirstNet, from the political side of it to the technical side of it to the end user experience side of it. So so that's demonstrative of our whole attitude with the Public Safety Broadband Technology Association.
Well, thank you. It's been very informative, and I hope it has been for those that are tuned in. So with that, I'll say thank you again, and taken up enough of your time. So
we're fine. We're all home.
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day. Appreciate it. And
You
for
too.
those of you watching, look up, before you go, quickly, what's the website address?
Oh, the website is PSBTA.org. And please follow us on Twitter. We have a Facebook account. We are ramping up our webinar series, the PSBTA Technical Solutions webinar series. So we're bringing some incredible content right to your desktop through that as well. So please consider becoming a member and participating in our webinars while we're all still in lockdown.
All right. Thanks again, Martha. Have a good one.
All right. Take
All
care.
right.
Bye-bye.